Hey, Matrix Live, Ben here, and once again, I've got a crowd of people. Let's start with Bruno. Hey, Bruno.
Hello.
Hey, so Bruno has been with the Element for ages now, but he's been working on Hydrogen Client, which is probably the most interesting thing that we've got going. I think it's super.
I would
If you
say so.
haven't, hey,
I would say so.
yeah, you think that. If you haven't tried it, it's go to hydrogen.element.io, and it gives you a brand new lightweight web client. And Bruno's got a posse. Why don't you, Bruno? How about I let you introduce your guys here?
Right. So Hydrogen started becoming a company project last year, and this summer we applied for a Google Summer of Code, and out of that came Midhun, who worked over the summer with us, which was a really good experience. And Daniel, shortly after, also joined us as a new Vector intern. So yeah, both Midhun and Daniel have been working on Hydrogen over the summer, cranking out great stuff, which we'll get into.
Super. Hey, Midhun and Daniel. That's really cool. So, do we want to
Hello.
give a little bit of a rewind into hydrogen, where it came from? I think probably a lot of people know, but it doesn't hurt to remind them.
Right. I can talk about this for hours, but I'll try to keep it short.
Yeah, do.
So back in the day, I had a Windows phone, and there was no Matrix client for it, and
There's no
also
anything
had
on Windows Phone, man.
no fewer and fewer apps. But I also had some ideas how to, after working on Element for a while, like what could be architectural improvements. So I started, a project called Brawl, which was basically a web client, but more lightweight and all that. Last year that evolved into Hydrogen. That's it.
Super. And then as of probably it's in the last year or so, things have started to accelerate with hydrogen. I would say maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. So last year we decided to take Brawl in and make it a company project because the lightweight use case, and also so on Windows Phone it had to support Edge, pre-WebKit Edge, and that is actually, well, it's not the same as Internet Explorer, but it wasn't too hard to make it work on Internet Explorer as well. Internet Explorer 11, mind you. And that was actually a use case that for some of our customers who have an aging or an older, or if you will, more conservative IT infrastructure, that was a unique selling point to have a client that does end-to-end encryption and all the good stuff that Matrix brings on IE11. That was the initial reason to bring it into the company, but also. Eventually, there's a plan to have the Element be powered by, like, one of the goals of Hydrogen is to extract an SDK from it for web clients. So we've got the Rust SDK going for native clients, which is still evolving, and then Hydrogen SDK might eventually replace the JS SDK and to some extent the React SDK we already have, and that be the go-to SDK for web clients.
I'm looking forward to that. We've got quite a bit of demand for that, so I'd like to see that. The React.
Good news in that department. We'll get into that.
Ooh, this is going to be news to me even. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, we get a lot of demand for web clients, and the React SDK is not the most easy thing to start with. It's also not even the best advert for the JS SDK. So I'm really looking forward to another SDK here. All right, let's move on though, because we've got our guests. Midhun.
Hello.
Hey. So where in the world are you?
So I am in Kerala, India, and in the southern part, Trivandrum.
Mm-hmm. So it must be quite late where you are, huh?
Yep, it's 9:30 p.m.
Thank you for staying up and joining us. That's really helpful. So tell us about your GSOC experience. How did you discover Matrix, and how did you get involved?
Right. So how I discovered Matrix, that's an interesting question. So the short answer is coincidence. So I was looking for a GSOC project to choose, and I was primarily looking for like projects that used the C programming language, because that was something that I was using at the time.
Right.
And then I figured out that all those projects were either they were uninteresting because it was either refactoring or like documentation only projects, or they were insanely hard. So insanely hard in the sense you would not be able to show up one day and then pick it from there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, one problem with the GSOC project, Element don't have, or Matrix don't have this so much, but other departments do.
Right.
Is that it takes so long to get onboarded with a project. If you've got some 30-year-old C or scheme or something, UI, not just something really deep. FFmpeg, for example, you just can't get into it over the summer.
Right.
So yeah, we don't have that we don't have that kind of problem.
Yep, that was actually one thing that I tried FFmpeg. I was reading their suggested projects, and I was like, no way, this is not going to happen.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a noble effort, but it just is too much work to get into in the time frame. And I think, I'm not going to attack another project. But
it must be hard for those projects to find like good GSOC projects.
Right. Yeah. Onboarding is
good in scope.
Yeah. So I was actually looking through the list, and then I saw Matrix, and then I was going through all the projects, and I found hydrogen interesting. Then I went to the issues. And was looking for something easy to fix. Luckily there were, I think, 2 easy things to fix. One was pretty much changing a string, and the other was, I think, some minor CSS fix. So I was happy there, and so I fixed it. And then I made contact with Bruno, and here we are. 10 weeks of fun.
Super.
Very happy.
Yeah. I mean, it's refreshing to be involved in a project so early that updating the CSS is still a top level task. I guess. So what was the scope of your? You had to make a proposal to be involved in GSOC. What was the scope of that?
So So when I actually decided that I was going to do, I was going to choose hydrogen. I was looking again at the list of options, the suggested projects. And again, what I was looking for was easy to do things. So, and I was looking through those, and
we say they're achievable.
Yeah, achievable, and the easiest in the sense, the shortest amount of time, shortest amount of effort, because I actually got in late, so I didn't have much time to prepare for the proposal.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I found this one, which was about creating a right panel with some information. And so me being very lazy, I was looking at I was running hydrogen, and I noticed that almost all the information that you have to give in the right panel is already there. So that makes things easy.
Yeah,
I think Midhun is underselling himself a bit here. He already had a prototype running before he even got accepted of the right panel with the member list.
All right. Okay.
That too, but this was why I actually chose this project. Yeah, 1 second. I might. I should have turned all the notifications off. So anyway, so I choose this topic, which is to create a right panel, and I start writing the proposal. Tried again, being very lazy on it, and then I asked Bruno for opinions, and he told that there was not enough information on it, which was correct. So then I think that was on a Friday, and Monday was, I think, the last date.
Right.
So so then I went ahead, did the best I can, filled it with as much information as I can. And and I was like, I think, very lucky.
Super.
And also, I had a prototype. Maybe that helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that it does sound like you're underselling it. The whole part of where you built the prototype before you've completed the proposal is probably something that stuck in Bruno's mind when he considered your incomplete suggestions, incomplete proposal.
Yep, I was hoping for that when I actually built the prototype. So
yeah. I mean, the code wins arguments. So that's
I mean, it's the first time I was a mentor for GSOC, or I even had anything to do with GSOC. But what I really looked for as a mentor was somebody who had looked what it would entail to implement what, like, a lot of proposals were quite vague. But if you see somebody has put in the effort to actually see what it would entail to implement a feature, that makes you Yeah, that's a good sign.
Engagement is the key. All right, so the right panel was the goal. What
Yep.
features does the right panel have now in, I guess, is it 027 or is it not released yet?
It is 027.
It
That's
is.
right.
Yeah. Right. So the right panel basically has three things. It has a room information panel that shows the room name, the avatar, the encryption status, and things like that. And then there's a member list, and then there's a member details panel. So it's like the room information panel, but for a member.
Gotcha.
And all these are, you navigate, through all these. So from the room information panel, you go to the member list. From the member list panel, by clicking on an item, you go to the member details panel. So those are the panels, and I also implemented SSO, which I think was released yesterday or the day before yesterday, I think.
Wow. Okay,
On Monday,
that's a completely unrelated stretch goal, was it?
Yep. Yeah. So the initial idea was to have like an additional write panel. So when I was writing the proposal, I was actually looking at what Element Web did, and it had a share room button that will like give you, options to share a room on like social media, like Reddit and things like that. And so I figured I might as well put that in the proposal. So then Bruno later suggested that it was probably better, more worthwhile to do SSO, and I agreed.
Yeah, I mean, SSO is an order of magnitude more work than just a share button, though, right? The share button is just a concatenated URL, whereas the SSO is a completely new login flow.
Yeah, it's also more fun to do than a normal UI.
Right. Ah, okay, that's interesting. So
way.
you're more into the code and the back end and the flow compared to the UI?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, but it was nice, having something different to do.
Okay.
After working on UI after UI, it was nice to get something else.
Right,
something meaty. Yeah.
Gotcha. Great. And the submission was this week, right? It's just happened?
Day before yesterday, I think.
Day before yesterday,
Yeah.
okay. Because time zones are all different in Google America land. That's super. So we're gonna see the results of GSOC, I guess, in a few weeks once Google get their paperwork done. And then we hope to see you sticking around with the project. Do you think you're going to try and stick around?
Yep, I'm going to do whatever I can to find time to contribute to Matrix because it's been fun. So I like having fun.
That's awesome. All right, I'm really glad to hear that. Of course, you don't have to say that just because you're on Matrix Live.
Yeah, and no, I would do it. I mean, I think I also implemented linkifying text. That's like rendering text links as anchor tags. So so that was done, I think, before GSOC started.
Oh, really? Nice. Get your stuff in there.
Yeah.
Does Hydrogen support Markdown messages yet, as in for rendering?
Yeah, Daniel did that.
Yeah.
Oh, we're jumping the gun. Sorry.
Not
Okay.
not for sending them though. Not yet, anyway.
It's not merged yet.
Well, if you receive messages, they will show up properly, but there's no editor for Markdown, so it doesn't send.
Gotcha. All right. Let's jump. Midhun, thank you. Let's jump. Talking of Google on the west coast of America, we have Daniel, who is you're working at Element now as an intern. I've got that right finally. Is that right?
Yep.
Super. And where in the world are you?
I am in the United States, in Oregon, so quite far away from Midhun.
Yeah, you two will never overlap ever again. I think we've contrived this call. Just for you. All right, tell us about your experience as an intern then.
Well, I was interested in Matrix for quite a while, since maybe 2017, and so I was looking for something to do over the summer, and I there weren't actually any open intern positions listed on the site, but I just decided to give it a shot and email I don't even know, like there's like an email address listed there, and then they're like, yeah, we run interns, we do interns, and so that's how that worked out.
That's impressive, actually, because cold emailing these days is probably an underrated skill. I appreciate that.
So how I got my job.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Bruno, how did you? What did you do? Because that's early days, right? Did you just email support at Matrix? What did you do?
Some emailers, but I basically decided to apply after I saw on Hacker News that Matthew wrote. Yeah, we actually got funded and we can hire people now.
Amazing. All right, so Daniel, you know, like it was 2005, you cold emailed and got the internship. That's amazing. And what drew you to hydrogen?
Well, honestly, nothing drew me to hydrogen. They said, "Hey, you should work on this," and I looked at it, and it was actually really cool. So I originally I worked on my own client on for Matrix some time ago, and my whole thing was, "Hey, Element, or at that time Riot, is really slow, and I really don't like having to wait for room switches." And so I try to make this really stripped down client that would actually work on my old Chromebook. And so hydrogen does this, but it does this like 10 times better, because instead of just taking stuff out to be faster, it actually, like, a lot of it is thought out to be more performant. And so it's this really ideologically very similar to what I was hoping for. So
So you
it was a lucky
dream role then.
Perhaps whoever said that I should work on hydrogen, had this. They knew what they were doing.
All right, so we've started to hear about what you were working on. Can you give us an overview? Oh, how long is your internship, and what's the kind of scope of it, I guess, is the thing?
I think it's over on September 20-something. Like, it's cool. 12 weeks, I think.
Right. So are you going back to college, or have you graduated?
Yeah, well, both. I have my bachelor's, and I'm working towards my master's. So I have graduated in the past, but I'm not done. And I might not be done for a while, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we've got another month with you, and then we'll hope to keep you involved however we can. So what have you been working on? What was the... I mean, you didn't have like a set goal the way that GSOC provides, but what was the scope of your involvement?
Yeah, well, there was no predefined, like, what I have to do. So all it was is I would talk to Bruno, and Bruno was like, "Hey, this is an issue that would benefit from some work." And so I was like, okay. And I'm pretty happy to do anything. I mean, as long as I'm useful, I will do it. So it started out with, I think we started with replies. There might have been something else. There was like a little fix that I did at first. Wow, it's hard to remember things that only happened so little time
Rendering
ago.
Markdown or formatted messages came before, and then you did report. Yeah, those two really happened at the same time, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, formatted messages happened first. So back when I joined, Hydrogen was just displaying the Markdown text for the messages, and so I did some work trying to make it work, and I did. I mean, I think I'm quite happy with the result. We have displaying messages now, and what this nice thing crystallized out of it is that Element sends a fallback for replies that actually includes like a quote in HTML. And so what became very clear is that it actually shows the replies in the messages. So not only do we have formatted messages, but we also had this quasi reply view. Yeah. And so then we also worked on sending replies. So being able to like hit reply and type a message, and it works perfectly. So
both features people in the community were really excited about having. It's like a game changer to make it feel more polished, I think.
Yeah, it is little things like that, isn't it? Well, little things, but it's surprising how details can kind of elevate a project like that, especially when it's something super interactive, and you're constantly feeling like how you want to. The way that you interact with it informs your opinion about the whole thing, and then that goes on to inform your opinion about Matrix and the entire concept of the messaging platform that we're promoting. So these tiny first impressions actually are pretty critical. Cool. So what are you going to work on in your final month?
Well, so there's a few things. I think the main thing is we've been looking to start switching Hydrogen to TypeScript, because there have been too many, even like introduced by me, bugs with nulls and other things that would be caught by a static type system.
Okay.
And so we've been putting in some work in getting our build system to actually support TypeScript and to actually start converting parts of the code base to TypeScript.
Super.
And yeah.
I didn't think that was a goal. I feel like I heard that was a non-goal for hydrogen, but I'm excited.
Well, if I can add to that, my goal was to have a very minimal build system, and we found this tool called Snowpack, which actually gives us both of best worlds. And it will also help us with our SDK goal. So I thought it was a no-brainer. So it actually won't make the build system at develop time more painful. It's just feels like the same thing like not having a build system at all, which was what Hydrogen had before. It just would load text files in the browser like 20 years ago.
Yep.
But just in the background now, we just remove all the type annotations from TypeScript by using this Snowpack thing. And it's still, so we've got in the browsers now, we can have modules. And this leverages that and makes it so that every file is built independently. And then as long as it doesn't change, it's cached. Mm-hmm. So it actually does very little compilation compared to like a Webpack that will take your whole code base and bundle it, transpile it and bundle it on every refresh. And for an app like Element Web, that can take 5 seconds, which
it feels long,
or even longer. It also consumes huge amounts of memory. I also want Hydrogen that you can develop for it in a slower computer. You don't need gigabytes of RAM to just develop a web app. So that is a personal goal of mine. But Snowpack really gives us the best of both worlds. So it's really a cool tool. And it will also help us make Hydrogen easier to embed in other websites.
Okay, so is the entire Snowpack build step is to strip the annotations and cache the results? Is that everything?
Yes. Also, it allows us to easily use dependencies. Before we didn't have the transpiler. Browsers currently only allow you to use your own code basically in modules. But Snowpack makes the dependencies you install with the package manager appear as if it were your own code. It copies it. It transpiles it to a module, and then it copies it to a location where your own code would be. It's gonna be a big change. It's gonna help us in big ways, I think.
I mean, for people who are exhausted with the state of the JavaScript ecosystem, it does sound like Snowpack is doing the right things. I haven't used it myself.
Yes, but today I found out there's something like Snowpack. Of course, it's the JS ecosystem. There's another thing called another tool called Vite, V-I-T-E, which basically does the same thing. And there's also quite a bit of community pickup on that tool. So we'll have to see where the ecosystem lands. But switching between those tools should be quite easy. But it's funny you mentioned that because, of course, there are two tools in the JS ecosystem that do exactly the same thing.
At least there's a tendency towards simplicity with a fixation on TypeScript as well. So, as you say, best of both worlds, hopefully. Although let's see how this escalates, because that's another problem with the JavaScript ecosystem, I guess. Escalation. All right, so something you alluded to there, and something I'm probably even more excited about than Hydrogen itself, is the prospect of drawing an SDK out. In the past, when we've talked about this privately, you proposed a quite many layered SDK stack. Is that something you've still got in mind? And what can we see there?
Right. Yeah. So there's a few ongoing efforts to integrate Hydrogen, and the layer that people seem to want to integrate with most is the view model layer, because that allows you to do very minimal work. You basically just write a UI that is quite stateless. It just attaches to the view model, and you've got everything there to have a workable client. So that is the minimal effort to have a Hydrogen powered client. You just write your own UI, and the limitation there is that the UI has to be somewhat similar to Hydrogen. But then again, chat clients are chat clients, so often that will be the case. But then Hydrogen also has sort of a more lower level SDK where you've got everything protocol specific, encryption, everything, storage at a sort of the matrix layer, we call it. And that is that is at a higher level than the JS SDK, really.
Right.
But it doesn't include anything like UI state or anything.
Okay.
And that could be another level to integrate with if you want UI that's a bit different than Hydrogen.
Yeah, definitely.
And still, that's a reasonable amount of work to build on top of that and build your own client with that.
I mean, if you're building a chat client, you can't really get away from room list timeline view. These are essential.
We haven't come up with anything better, indeed. Maybe we will one day.
But I'm also excited about the prospect of a lower level SDK that provides better abstractions than the JS SDK, because
that will still not be really geared towards like bots or anything. It's really
still client based.
Yeah, it's still for interactive clients that it's intended. But could be with a different UI.
So the question, of course, that you don't want is when.
When it's ready.
The answer I don't want.
So I think it's so we started. Daniel started on the conversion to TypeScript. I think that is a good thing to have for an SDK. Like if we ever hope to have Element adopt a Hydrogen SDK, they are full on with TypeScript, as many projects are, and it will be so much easier if Hydrogen is done in TypeScript, or at least have type definitions. So I would say not before that conversion is done.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Yeah, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, also with Snowpack, it's probably going to be easier to have like builds that just do the SDK. Like right now we have a custom build script that just minimally integrates with Snowpack, but I think over time we will want to make more usage of the actual build tool we're using, and then having like just an SDK build or all these different builds we will want to have, or just the view model SDK build.
Yeah,
that will become easier.
The problem you're going to if Hydrogen is the primary consumer of the Hydrogen SDK, you've instantly increased your build complexity because it's now 3 projects at least. Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably want to keep it in one repo, but yeah, your build system has to spit out different assets or packages. Yeah.
All right, but I mean it's reasonable. Okay, I'm excited for that. Despite the answer of when it's ready, I'll live with that. In fact, all customers will live with that. Guys, thank you so much. It's been great to chat, and I'm glad that our guests have got so much positive to say, because they weren't briefed to do that, but they did it. Is there anything else that people want to add?
Maybe just the upcoming work in Hydrogen, like.
Yes.
Apart from SDK, we also want to work on features stuff I'm really excited about is like make it like I use Hydrogen, but I switch all the time between Element and Hydrogen, because sometimes it's just like this somehow feels easier to do in Element, and of course it is, because it has all these tweaks, and scrolling is something I really look forward to having, like scrolling that doesn't jump.
Right.
Also, improving the gap filling in the timeline. And then also just improving UX. Also have message previews. All those things I hope to have landed in the coming months. So that'll be exciting to have.
Yeah, is gap filling? Gap filling's a lot of work. I think.
Well, we already do it. The only thing is, if you're looking at a room and you sync a gap, that gap won't be automatically filled. So it will just look like messages are missing, and there's a big, very scary bug in the app. But it's just. Yeah, we're not doing that properly yet.
Okay.
And that sort of ties in also with how we handle scrolling. So we'll probably deal with that in one go.
That's interesting. So you mean to say that the messages are inserted into the model, but then not reflected in the UI?
No, it's just the UI has to tell. Currently has to tell. Currently, the UI assumes there will only be a gap at the top, and it will tell, "Hey, I'm at the top," and then the model will load more messages and fill the gap if needed.
Okay.
But it should also do that if there's a gap not at the top, which happens when you look at the room while a gap comes in.
Yeah, I see. Cool. All right, so gap filling.
Good stuff coming.
Yeah, I mean, now that you've got lots of stuff. You'll be reduced presently, but still, there's loads of good stuff coming. I'm glad that we've got at least one full-time person just on Hydrogen. All right, well, I think we need to wrap it up and say goodbye to the gentleman. Midhun, thank you for getting involved in GSOC.
Happy to be here. Happy to talk with you all.
Super, and Daniel as well. You're with us for another month, but thank you for getting involved. All right, thanks Bruno as well.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye Matrix Live. Thanks.
Bye.